What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, well, Mike Tomlin won't tell you, but they have a quarterback decision made. It will be Russell Wilson this week, week 7, against the New York Jets. Don't tell anybody, but George Pickens, let it slip. We'll dive into what that means for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who benefits the most from a quarterback change, and then it is Friday, so we're diving into our predictions for the weekend on Sunday Night Football. Just got word that it is a alumni weekend this weekend for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're honoring the 50-year reunion of the 74 Super Bowl team. I'm hoping we get some good ones. I mean, I've met Mean Joe Green a couple of times. He's never not terrifying. It would be cool if a couple other guys show up. There's other one. I mean, Rod Woodson, Mel Blount is the scariest. Mel Blount's a guy where I've had offensive linemen look at me and go, I can't believe that guy played corner. I'm like, I know. They're like, he could still play corner. I'm like, I know. Scary human beings. Hopefully we get some good guys there this weekend, and I get to bring you guys great stories. With that said, it's a nice one. Man, we got plenty to talk about. Excited to round out a quarterback week. How you feeling, my friend?
Oh, I'm feeling great. The sequence of events of today have been phenomenal to follow along with. So I'm excited to talk about them. And honestly, I'm just excited for this game. This is one of those games where I think I've been more excited about this one coming up than I have been about a Steelers game in a long time, just because, well, it's something that's been so anticipated for 2 months. Yeah. It is a future Hall of Famer stepping in at quarterback for the Steelers. It's an alumni weekend, so all the faces are going to be in there, like you mentioned. And I just think overall it's a good matchup that's going to be a good game on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You get Aaron Rodgers in the building on a Sunday night football game, and you got to feel good about the situation, especially going up against Russ and a great defense. Devontae Adams show. Maybe George Pickens balls out. Who knows? I'm excited. Sunday night never disappoints. And look at, man, I've been spreading the conspiracy theory of Mike Tomlin, rain dance, was back there just like, give me thunder, give me lightning, just so that Justin Fields couldn't get his name called. And I think it's starting to gain some ground. Mike Tomlin was asked about the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation today, and this is what he had to say.
Mike, how did Russ look this week, and if you're ready to name a starter?
I am, but I'm just going to, keep that in-house. But I thought he was sharp. I thought Justin was sharp as well. I thought we had a highly productive week from both guys and from the unit as a whole.
Mike, is a scenario still in play where you could use both quarterbacks on Sunday?
Certainly.
Assistants make suggestions, you make decisions. How much input does Arthur have on these situations, just given that he's been game planning with Justin for 6 weeks?
I wear the decisions.
I'm saying 5 minutes later, okay? Because Mike Tomlin, after practice, says, we have an answer. I'm just not going to give it to you. No matter how much you've been watching practice, no matter how much you know the answer to this question, I will not give you the answer. We're taking this to game time. We're taking this to kickoff. You will find out when that person's name is announced as the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, before we dive into this, how hilarious would it be if the Steelers announced the offense and at the end of it said, your quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? Would be incredible. Unfortunately, that's not what's going to happen. This is less than 5 minutes later talking to George Pickens. This is what he has to say when asked about if he's putting in extra work with Russell Wilson this week in preparation for a potential change at quarterback.
I know you've had a long-time chemistry with Justin going back to high school. How's your relationship developed with Russ since you got here?
Ever since training camp. So I'll probably say about 2 months now, which is, I feel like, pretty good. And then, like I always said, Russ, you know how he attacked the game, approached the game, winning 2 Super Bowls is always a little different.
Have you noticed him putting in extra time this week, maybe working with you one-on-one just to try to get on the same page?
Yeah, getting on the same page after practice starting, more than usual because, this is first start.
Well, Mike, I think we could all sit here and we could all come up with a billion responses. I like to picture that the Pittsburgh Steelers were in a meeting, okay? And all of a sudden, everybody looks at their phone, and George Pickens and Russell Wilson are going viral for some reason. And they all start clicking on it and realize, dude, what are you doing, man? We went all week long. Nobody let it slip. And you're saying the last interview of the week. Now, let's be honest. This is hilarious. This is nothing against George. Who cares that George let it slip? Because at the end of the day, we all knew this. We knew this all week long. We knew this Tuesday, the second Mike Tomlin said that he is reopening the door for whatever quarterback situation he is welcoming. Everybody knew exactly what was going to happen with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They made no effort to hide it outside of Mike Tomlin being so in a vacuum that he doesn't, I mean, does he really think, did he really think all week, like, man, dude, I got the Jets by the cojones here, man. They have no idea. They have no idea. He's probably sitting there at dinner just like, guys, they have no idea who the starting quarterback of my team is this weekend. I mean, that's just, there was no secret. There's no surprise. Here we are, the Pittsburgh Steelers working with Russell Wilson, a move that was anticipated for months. Started to ease up, but even when it started to ease up, you kind of felt, and the conversation continued of, is this Justin's team? No, it's not. When will that change happen? Well, we're just waiting. Do I think that it was made maybe 1, maybe 2 weeks a little early? Possibly. Did I still anticipate it happening? Certainly. So let me ask you this question, because now it's George Pickens official. Who benefits, or what's the expectation? I should say. We'll start there. What's the expectation of this offense under Russell Wilson? Does it get better? Does it get worse? Is it the same? What is the expectation of Russell Wilson and a new quarterback for the Steelers?
As far as my expectations go, I don't think it takes too much of a step back, but I will say I'm expecting a slow start. I mean, is anybody expecting otherwise? This is Russell Wilson's first in-game snaps at full speed against number ones on the other side of things since last year. He's been on the shelf for the last 2 months, and you can say, and Russ can say and has said on multiple occasions that, hey, listen, it's not like I haven't been doing anything. I've been putting in the mental reps. I've been doing reps, day in and day out. It's not like I haven't been here, and he's correct. So I don't think that there's an issue about him grasping the offense, but I do think that you can expect, or at the very least, it's not crazy to assume that he's going to get off to a slow start. So I think in the first quarter, you're going to see a little bit of discombobulation, maybe not on Russ with the play calls, but maybe just simply with the offense in general, and maybe the flow of Arthur Smith calling plays for a quarterback that he's quite frankly never called plays for. So I can expect a slow start, but outside of that, I don't think very much changes for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're still going to be more run-centric simply because that's what they've tried to do all season long, and why go away from that when you're 4-2? But I think the biggest thing I'm expecting is a slow start in the first quarter.
So I hope everybody watches this podcast on YouTube, and we all collectively get to experience. You just give a phenomenal layout there. That was absolutely perfect. There was great work there, Nick. Behind the frozen face that you are currently stuck on, because it's great. It's as good as it gets. It's as good as it gets. And I hope we all get to back it up. I hope everybody gets to experience. It's still there. And I hope it stays there the whole show. If we're going to be honest, I kind of hope it stays there.
I think that might be what Mike Tomlin's face was whenever he saw what George Pickens said in his media scrum.
It could be. It could be. That might have been George Pickens' face when Mike Tomlin looked up and said, "George, what the hell was that, man?" And he tried as hard as possible. I 100% agree with you. I don't know. Nobody knows. Russell Wilson could come out here and have the game of his life, and the Pittsburgh Steelers offense could be 100 times better instantly, and boom, everything changes. Here it is, Super Bowl winning quarterback, future Hall of Famer. Pittsburgh Steelers got their guy. But if we're going to be realistic, just like you said, the expectation is that Russell Wilson has barely practiced with these guys. He has never played with them. His 6 snaps that he took in the preseason is not going to be enough to build any form of camaraderie about this new layout that he is walking into. This is a brand new situation, and it is essentially a brand new situation with no practice, no preparation, because you got this week, yes, and you got the week and a half, 2 weeks maybe, of the end of training camp preseason that you were preparing as the starter. But that was it. There's no training camp. There's no 6 weeks into the season. This is a brand new team with a brand new quarterback and a brand new system, and you have to expect some hiccups. I think the Steelers are expecting hiccups. I believe Russell Wilson is expecting hiccups, and everybody else should be expecting hiccups. Now, they should not be expecting a loss. They should not be comfortable with the loss, but they should not expect this to go swimmingly right out of the bat, especially with an offense that has not been swimming out of the bat in, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years, something like that. It's been a long time. I don't think Russell Wilson changes that. I agree with you. I expect a somewhat slow start, but I do expect things to get better, especially in the receiving game. So I'll follow that up with this. I have 3 guys that I look at right now that say these 3 guys will benefit the most from Russell Wilson being the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And while 2 of them might be foreseen easy candidates, oh yeah, no duh, Noah, would take you 10 minutes to come up with that one, like to really think hard, that rattle your brain for a couple hours. There is one shocker that I will get to at the end. The first one is Calvin Austin, who I think benefits the most from this change. I mean, hands down, benefits the most from this change. There is an old saying in the NFL, and that old saying is average quarterbacks do not make great wide receivers, or great wide receivers do not make average quarterbacks good, but great quarterbacks make average wide receivers good. And Russell Wilson, maybe he's not great right now. Maybe he's lost his spark. Maybe he's done. Maybe he's washed. We have no idea. But if Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson and he looks good and he comes out here and he's able to throw the football and he's able to make accurate reads and his mind can process the field faster than Justin Fields could, then you are going to see guys like Calvin Austin start to branch out and really take advantage of this offense. Because if you go back and watch the last 6 games, Calvin Austin is open a lot. And most of the time, he's just so deep into the read that Justin Fields doesn't get there. And his brain goes take off and run or do something or stare down the first read. And again, Justin Fields should not have any slack in this week. He has been a great quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has done great things. But who Justin Fields is as an athlete and who Russell Wilson is as an athlete are 2 totally different people. And Russ's strengths are being able to process the field and make those timely, accurate reads. And Calvin Austin is going to be somebody who finds himself, we could find ourselves, maybe not this week, but maybe in a couple of weeks going, man, Calvin Austin is open all the time anymore. That's crazy. Maybe he was open all the time coming into this, but his quarterback, his strengths weren't built to finding the guy who was open on that second, on that third, on that fourth read. Maybe Russell Wilson does. Number 2 on this list is the easy one, George Pickens. Because, man, George Pickens has never had a good quarterback. Let's just be very honest. George Pickens has never once had a good quarterback in the NFL. And Justin Fields has played well, definitely. But Justin Fields is a different type of quarterback than Russell Wilson. And while I say Justin Fields is good, Russell Wilson is a good quarterback. And this is the first time George has a really, potentially really good quarterback throwing him the football. And you just got to think, what could that be? Because if George was in a different offense, if George is we talk about that constantly. If George is in Minnesota right now, if George is in New York with the Jets, if George is in San Francisco, if George is in Buffalo or any of these, Baltimore, but still Zay Flowers makes moves. I'm blanking. Kansas City. There it is. I was like, Tom Brady. What's the other one? Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City. what does George Pickens look like? And everybody would tell you, yeah, he's probably the scariest human being on the planet. He's probably the best wide receiver on the field in most games. And I'm excited to see what George Pickens can do now with the quarterback who's more fitted to what he can do. And I just don't think we have any idea. We have no clue what could come of this because the offense is going to change. Russell Wilson is going to have many more freedoms at the line of scrimmage. The offensive playbook is going to be much more open to Russell Wilson, and it's going to do things like Arthur Smith is going to allow him to take some shots and say, screw it, man, throw it up to George Pickens. Who cares? Just do it. I think George Pickens is going to have, George is a guy that when he leaked that Russ is starting, my mind went, man, I should take him out of my fantasy lineup because, conduct detrimental to the team is a real thing in the NFL, and you just never know. And then I thought, man, dude, he's might be the best fantasy football player in week 6 or week 7. Excuse me. He has that potential. And then there's number 3. You'd think it's Pat Freiermuth, but Pat Freiermuth's going to be just fine. And Pat Freiermuth's been good, but the offense has to regulate itself to Pat Freiermuth in order for Pat Freiermuth to take full advantage. And most tight ends are in that same boat. Connor Hayward is not. Connor Hayward is a guy that has incredibly reliable hands, is the most forgotten member of a receiving corps anytime he's on the field. Because I said this to you before we got on this podcast. I said, Connor Hayward is on this list. And you said, yeah, because nobody cares that he's out there. And, well, it's true. Nobody cares that he's out there, so he's always open. Go watch 6 weeks worth of film. You want to know who's open more than anybody else in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room? Connor Hayward. Dude should have had at least another 2, maybe 3 touchdowns this season so far. And again, that's nothing against Justin Fields. It's just not Justin Fields' specialty. That's not what he is built to do. It's not where he's at in his development. I think Justin Fields is a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. I don't want to get mistaken here saying these things. What I'm saying is that Russell Wilson is the guy who finds the open guy. That's what he does. That's what he specializes in. Connor Hayward is going to be open all the freaking time. And I'm telling you, Connor Hayward is going to be a guy that the first 2 weeks of the season, you were looking at this offense going, why are they not using Connor Hayward? What's wrong with Connor? Are they done with Connor Hayward? And then it started to click in my head, like Connor Hayward doesn't fit in a Justin Fields offense. He just doesn't. He fits in a Russell Wilson offense. And I expect Connor Hayward to have himself a game against the New York Jets and moving forward. Those are my 3. Calvin Austin, who I expect to just blossom into Calvin Austin. George Pickens, who I am just excited to see what could a very good wide receiver be with a better quarterback, a better passing quarterback. And then Connor Hayward, because the dude's always open and he can always catch anything. And he just didn't have he's never had anybody throwing him the football. Now he's got somebody. What happens? Those are my 3: Calvin Austin, George Pickens, Connor Hayward. I'll toss it to you. I hope we get a nice frozen face again. Thoughts on that list?
I'm hoping I fix the frozen face because at least this time, I'll be ready for it. I got to get my GQ pose ready. But no, I like the list. I like the list. I was surprised when you said Connor Hayward kind of before the show. I almost kind of wish you hadn't told me because then I would have had the same reaction, which was, really? We're gonna go with the 3rd string, potentially 4th string if Michael Pruitt ends up playing 4th string tight end. But at the same time, you saw him get open against Dallas, and it was just a fraction of an inch off from him getting that first catch in stride against Dallas. He did come back and score another touchdown against the Cowboys. He's a guy that, athleticism-wise, I don't mean to be mean to Connor Hayward. He's still 10 times the athlete I'll ever be. But opposing defenses are going to say, all right, if he catches the ball 5 yards down the field, he's not going to get another 10 yards down the field before we can rally to the football. So they're not going to cover him as seriously as they're going to cover guys like Calvin, guys like Pat, guys like Darnell, who become much bigger issues after the catch. They're going to say, all right, wherever he catches the ball, that's probably where he's going to end up. So we're not as concerned about him. But if Russ can catch him and kind of throw him open in certain situations, I like that as a sneaky, almost coverage beater because teams aren't going to game plan for him as much as they're going to game plan for the rest of the offense. So I think that's something that Arthur Smith might look at, especially if he's seeing the same things that you're seeing on film, which is he's been able to get open. He just hasn't been able to get the targets to be able to take advantage of it. So it's something that I'm going to be zeroing in on all day on Sunday night.
You already know that you will be getting text messages every time Connor Hayward catches a football, because that's just what, and they're okay with 5 yards. They're okay with 10 yards. They're okay with 15 yards. Like, they're okay with that. You know what I mean? If that's what your tight end is providing you, great. That's an easy 5 yards, but there will be times in the red zone. There will be times on 3rd and 2 where Connor Hayward comes up clutch, because that's what Connor Hayward does. And that's why he's on a football team, is because Connor Hayward is a guy who's made it to the NFL for being reliable in those moments where you need somebody who's reliable. And that's who Connor Hayward is. So I have big expectations for all three of them. If you're somebody who's into taking shots in fantasy football, go get Calvin Austin. Go get Calvin Austin, because you just don't know what's going to happen, but you have to have something in your gut telling you, yeah, Russ and him just feel like they're about to have a very good vibe moving forward. Very good vibe moving forward. All right. It's Friday, so we're going to dive into predictions. Plus, we will answer all of your questions as we do every single day. We'll answer this one before we move over there, because this goes right along with it. And a little teaser before we make our predictions. Nick, 250 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, my friend. Would you take that prop bet, or would you send it to the side here from our friend Marlon?
I think I would pass on that one. I wouldn't fade it, but I don't think 250 plus 2 touchdowns is something I'm going after, especially
what would
with
you
the
change?
offense.
What would you change?
I would change it to 1 touchdown, like over half a touchdown. I'd feel a little bit more confident in that. And even the 250, I'm kind of gritting my teeth through, but I would take 250 plus and over half of a touchdown for Russell Wilson this Sunday.
I kind of like it. I kind of like the 250 and 2 touchdowns. There's a part of me that just says, like, Mike Tomlin, like, we know who Mike Tomlin is, and we know that Mike Tomlin does things where he says things along the lines of, like, I don't care about the outside noise, but he's fully cares about the outside noise. Like, he cares about it so much that he would do something like give Russell Wilson an opportunity to throw for 600 yards in this game, just to say, hey guys, shut up. I know what I'm doing. I think that, like, there's just a part of me that we know Mike Tomlin does things to kind of say, haha, told you, pal. It's what we do here. And this just kind of feels like one of them. Would I take that bet? No. But
doesn't this feel like a game where George Pickens is just going to get thrown open and have like a 70-yard touchdown catch?
Yes.
Like, it's starting to feel like that. And that obviously goes a long way into going over 250.
It feels like the game where they come out and the first 3 plays are like just deep bombs. They might not run the football in the first 3 drives of the game.
Okay.
They might. Telling me I'm wrong.
Tell
me you
not.
would be shocked
There's
if
a
they
chance
did
that
not
I
throw
get
the
out there
football.
too, but
no, tell me you would not be. Tell me you'd be shocked if you know as I say this, that there is a good shot that the Pittsburgh Steelers come out first full drive. They don't even they don't run the football 1 time.
I don't agree with that. I think that Mike Tomlin's going to say, hey, in that game script, let's have as many passes as we have runs in that first 15, which is typically what all teams script. But I don't think that they're going to not run the football after they just had Najee Harris run for 100 yards a week ago. So I think that that's a little bit overzealous of you of saying they're not going to let any running backs touch the football in the first 3 drives is what you said. I don't want to misquote you.
Well, yeah, the first 3 drives. Maybe I'm getting a little overzealous with the first 3. First drive, I'll come back on the show on Monday, just like I did with the 19 points when everybody told me I was bold with the 20 points and say, well, what are you going to do?
Fair.
What are you going to do?
Take your victory laps when you earn them.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have many of them, so I got to take them when they come. All right, 250 and 2 touchdowns. I'd probably say under, but I think I'd say under the touchdowns more than I would the passing yards in this one. All right, we're going to dive into our predictions and answer all of your questions when we come back. But first, we got a word from our boys over at Game Time. Basketball season is right around the corner, and there are few live events that make you feel as in the moment. And I get it. Football season is probably one of them, where you feel like you're there. You're part of the action. Well, let me tell you about Game Time and how Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I decided to jump on and see what Pittsburgh Steelers versus New York Jets tickets look like in primetime. And it took me 3 seats before they hit me with a great deal, telling me that not only are these probably the cheapest, but for the view, they may be the best deal that anybody can offer. Let me walk you through a couple of really nice things about Game Time. First, priority. Game Time Picks curates to make it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. They give you all-in pricing, which means that this feature shows you the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout, because that is the absolute worst thing about buying tickets. They give you seat views because nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to show up not knowing what their view of the stadium is going to look like. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And Game Time ticket coverage, which means that your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code ALLSteelers for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Shout out our boys over at Game Time, and shout out to everybody going to the game on Sunday. Hope you get a good one. 2 future potential Hall of Famers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. I think Russell Wilson might be a little bit more on the verge, but I would still say Hall of Famer, or at least as close as a Hall of Famer gets. So I hope everybody enjoys it. Let's dive into the best time of the week, my friend. First off, let me say this. Kid hit big on the Broncos last night, and I felt real good about it. Real good about it. I mean, 2.5 was ridiculous, okay? 2.5 was ridiculous. Shouldn't have been that spread. Should have been like 11. What are we doing here? But shout out to the Denver Broncos, Brad, and just keeping my DraftKings. At this point, I don't want to say adding bucks to the pocket. It's just keeping the DraftKings count alive. That's what it's doing, is keeping me from having to awkwardly pull the wallet out and then take the debit card out and punch in the numbers on the back because I don't remember them in front of everybody, you know, and that's just demoralizing. So shout out the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. I mean, I was on the Broncos too, so I was very happy to see it. And honestly, I was on the Broncos in my Pick'em league as well, and everybody else was on the Saints. So it's always nice to go into the weekend with a nice pad there.
That's crazy, actually, that people took the Saints. That doesn't make any sense to me. All right, let's dive into the best time of the week. Our predictions: Week 7, Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Russell Wilson, George Pickens, and company. What do we got? I don't even got anything else. What do we got?
We got a Steelers underdog opportunity on Sunday.
Really?
The Steelers at DraftKings Sportsbook are home dogs plus 1.5 in this one to the 2-4 New York Jets. The over-under sits at 38.5. So we are firmly in the 30s once again for Steelers over-unders, but 1.5 point dogs going into Sunday.
What was the over-under?
38.5.
Yikes. 1.5 point dogs to the 2-4 Jets. I understand Vegas knows things that nobody else knows. I understand that the Pittsburgh Steelers have not been uber impressive this season. You don't look at them and say, man, these guys are phenomenal. They are the best 4-2 football team on the planet. You don't say any of those things. You say they're very lucky to be 4-2. I'm glad that they're 4-2. I'm very happy. As a Steelers fan would sit there and say, very grateful for 4-2. Thank you. The Jets are bad. Like, let's not sit here and act like the on paper, the Jets are great. Okay.
Yeah.
As a team, the Jets are not playing well. I mean, their wins are against the New England Patriots and the Tennessee Titans.
I would argue their losses also aren't as bad as a lot of people say they are.
I would argue the Bills are not as bad as a lot of people say they are. Who else have they lost to?
The undefeated Vikings in London.
In
San
London.
Francisco on the opener on the road.
Wait. Can I stop you with the Vikings though? Because I agree with that one, but Aaron Rodgers threw 2 interceptions to end that game. So is that still a bad loss? Is even if on paper compared to what it was?
I mean, let me kind of give you this one. Justin Fields had a snap go off his face mask. Otherwise, they would have probably beat the Colts. Is that still a bad loss?
Yes. They lost to the
Colts.
That's a bad loss.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a good.
And by your logic, then there you go.
Yeah. It's not a good loss. It's not a good. And even Dallas. I would say Dallas is a bad loss because Dallas is a bad football team, and Justin Fields won that game, and then you lost on a last-second touchdown. That's a bad loss. That's a bad loss. But I hear what you're saying. Their losses are not terrible. I still think the Jets. My thing is, if you could get it into crunch time, I don't trust Aaron Rodgers to go win you a football game. Maybe I do more so with Davante Adams, but this season, Aaron Rodgers cannot do it. I mean, 2 out of those 4 losses, he threw a game-sealing interception.
Yeah.
And both times blamed the wide receiver. Like, maybe it's you, pal. Maybe there's a correlation here to the same factor. I just maybe and maybe not. I don't know. But to say I threw a no-look pass and the guy ran the wrong way, maybe if you looked, different situation. I'm just saying.
Fair enough.
Where we stand. I'm not trying to put down Aaron Rodgers. I still think he's Aaron Rodgers, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
Steelers,
at the end of the day, I was just going to say at the end of the day, he is Aaron Rodgers. And if he hasn't done it this season, doesn't mean that he's incapable. And that's where I kind of get iffy on, I don't trust Rodgers to do that. It's like, just because he hasn't done it in the Jets uniform doesn't mean he hasn't done it on multiple occasions. He also always has that Hail Mary in his back pocket too, that he did again last week.
Which is unreal. And trust me, I know. I'm well aware. I grew up with my brother being a Packers fan. I know. I watched Aaron Rodgers do some despicable things to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. Some very, very terrible things. You sound like you might be leaning one way. So with that, I will toss it to you before I give you my prediction here. Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Jets, 1.5 point dogs. Kind of feels like I know where you're going with this, but I'll let you take the floor here. What do you got?
Yeah, I definitely have the under at 38.5, and I think the under is going to be not a sweat at all in this one. I think this is going to be a defensive battle. I think both offensive lines leave a lot to be desired, not to kind of talk trash to Ryan McCollum. I thought he played well last week, but you're starting Ryan McCollum next to a rookie in Mason McCormick, and we can go down the line of all the injuries the Steelers are facing. Jets offensive line isn't that good either. So you look at these two defensive fronts, I think it's going to be a ground, slow, grinding, field goal type of game. And unfortunately, with the Steelers, I think coming up with a slow start because of Russell Wilson kind of needing to knock the rust off, I have them falling behind early and just not able to get over that hump against the Jets defense. I have the New York Jets taking this one 17-13.
That is just an awful Sunday night football game.
Oh, trust me, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but all week I've been looking at this and saying it's going to be defensive. I understand that, Rodgers got Davante Adams and that might help a little bit, but I still think the Steelers defense is in a position to have a really good night. So I don't think the Jets are going to light it up, but I also don't know if the Steelers are going to light it up either. So it's not going to be a fun one if this comes to pass, but unfortunately that's just the way that I feel like it's going to run down.
That would be a tough one. I think there are two sides to this. I think people will say, well, Russ is going to do so much good for the Steelers offense. Possibly, very possibly, but he also, barely practiced, almost no training camp, no in-game action besides 6 snaps for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Cordero Patterson scored on that opening drive. So it wasn't Russell Wilson putting in the work out there. Just saying. And then on the other side of it, people will say, well, Davante Adams is back. Aaron Rodgers is back. They haven't played together in 3 years. It was 3 years in Achilles ago. That changes things. Life comes at you fast. You just have no idea. I'll look at it and say, I honestly, I think the thing I disagree with you most about this game is the under. I think that's that one is where I think I find the biggest difference here is I see 38.5 and go, no chance these teams don't score 20 points. At least one of them doesn't score 20 points. And I don't expect this to be a blowout by no means. There's no chance if this looks like a blowout, Justin Fields finishes the game. Like you can't be down 2.5 touchdowns at halftime or 3 touchdowns at the end of the third quarter, and everybody look at Mike T like, dog, you made this call. You like, what are you doing? I just don't think you could do that. And I don't think that's going to happen, but that's kind of where I'm getting at here is I just have a hard time saying nobody's going to score 20 points.
Okay.
That's where I think I disagree with you the most. The Jets winning I could get on board with, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
Because I'm all about the bumps. I'm all about the bumps all week long. We're going bump city the last 2 weeks. And because this is the end of the bump. This is it. We're week 7 at this point until people start firing coaches. Who cares? So I look at this and go, Russell Wilson's going to have some spark. And I'm following narratives of different teams and where we go. And the NFL seems different this year. In years past, it was you make a quarterback change, man, big things are coming. Aaron Rodgers and this team, they changed quarterbacks, or they changed offensive coaches, or just coaches in general, excuse me, and then offensive coordinators, and they're ready to go. Like they should be winning. But across the board, this is an NFL right now that no matter what you're doing, it kind of stays stagnant, stays at where we're at. There's no roller coaster ride to be ridden by anybody unless you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, which shout out. I look at this and say, if the Steelers can put up 23 points, you probably win this game. And that's not easy. But if I had to put defense against defense here, which is where I'm going, I think I'm trying to eliminate myself of Russ versus Aaron, which is what everybody will talk about, and go defense versus defense. I have more faith in the Steelers defense than I do most defenses in the NFL. And everybody's healthy. You got DeMonte KZ back. You got Alex Highsmith back. Kind of feels like they'll have an upper hand in this one. And I think that they'll hold the Jets to where the Jets need to be held for Russ to do things. And I just can't. Like, there's no part of me that thinks that Russell Wilson can score 14 points in this game and everybody can just be okay with it. I can't. Like, you can't do that. So I'm going to put my faith in the defense, and I'm going to put my faith in Mike Tomlin's decision-making here, which I'm very critical of Mike Tomlin on this show, but I will put my faith in that guy because he has won football games, many of them in the past, and sometimes you just got to listen to him. I'll go Pittsburgh Steelers 23, New York Jets 17 in this one. A Russell Wilson victory in the fourth quarter, and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense don't lose another one on a last second touchdown here. Although the Hail Mary could be dangerous, but hopefully they avoid that. Outside of that, I'm going 23-17. That's how I feel about this one.
I like it. I mean, the golden rule. TJ Watt says, give me 20 plus points offense, and then we can get this done on the defensive side of the football. If they get 20 plus points, I mean, we both predicted 17 points for the New York Jets. So, I mean, that's where we think that Jets offense is against the Steelers defense. The only thing that we disagree with is what Russell Wilson's offense is going to be able to do against the Jets in Russ's first start as a Pittsburgh Steeler. So I like your golden rule. I like the 20 plus points gets the job done on most games for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And like I said, I'm hoping you're right. I don't want to be right in this instance, but the gut feeling is 17-13 for me. But I do like Sunday night where the Steelers put up 20 plus on the Jets and Russell Wilson walks off the field with that glorious throwback jersey on, and the Steelers are 5-2.
Shout out. I hope so too, because there's few things worse than a bad Sunday night football game. And when you're there, like, I get it. I'm like, I shouldn't be complaining about this, and I'm really not complaining about this. But the problem is that I stuff my face before the game because they feed you so much food and so many desserts, and I got a sweet tooth. It's bad. That if it's not exhilarating, I'm getting tired. I'm getting sleepy, and I got to be there. I mean, the game ends at midnight. I'm there till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Like, just you get a little tired, man. You need some adrenaline, wake you up a little bit, get things. That shout out to the Dallas game for doing that to me at 1 a.m. Just hit you with that little boost of oomph right at the end. Got you going. All right. With that said, that's our picks this week. I hope everybody enjoyed them. Let's dive into some questions. I know we got some good ones. We'll end the week with some bangs here. If you got them, toss them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can before we head out of here. With that said, Nick, I will toss it to you. What do we got?
Yeah, let's go to Moises to kick things off. Appreciate you as always. Moises says, what do you guys think of trying to get Chris Olave or Cooper Kupp, since the Saints look like crap and Kupp with Stafford has some trade rumors?
My thing with Cooper Kupp is incredible wide receiver outside of Justin Jefferson, probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Injury prone the last couple of years, and that's concerning because what are you going to give up for Cooper Kupp? You're not going to go get him for a 7th round pick. You're going to go get him for a 2nd round pick, and are you going to give up a 2nd round pick for a guy that you can't trust to be on the field all the time? I think that's where it becomes an issue. Again, I mean, phenomenal wide receiver. I don't know if I'd be into it just because of the injury issues. Chris Olave, I would be all about. And if the Saints are looking to clean house, which I don't think that they are, but if they're looking to clean house, why not? Go get the guy and say, cool, when you're back from the concussion, we will ease you into the system and we'll work on it. Chris Olave is a stud. He's got a connection. He knows George Pickens. He knows Justin Fields, which will make things easier. I would love that one. Again, I think you're giving up a 2nd round pick, but I'd be much more okay with a 2nd round pick for Chris Olave than I would Cooper Kupp.
All right, let's go to Red Hot Chili Peppers fan who says, will Mike Tomlin be on pins and needles with the play calling in this one?
I don't think so. I think Arthur Smith is going to get a full look of, hey, here you go. This is your offense. Let's see what we could do with Russell Wilson. Now, Mike Tomlin will probably has had a heavy hand in the game planning this week and how the Steelers will approach their offensive of schematics this week and how they'll approach the first 15 plays and so on and so forth. But I think once we get in there, this will be Arthur Smith and this will be the Steelers offensive coordinator kind of letting it rip and say, hey, let's go. Let's get this offense moving. That's what Mike Tomlin wants. That's what everybody in Pittsburgh wants. I kind of foresee that happening on Sunday.
All righty, let's go over to Steven, who says, bold prediction, both Rodgers and Russ go down with injuries by halftime. I know you don't like injuries, Steven says, but the Steelers win it with Justin Fields on Sunday.
That would be tough. That'd be tough. Worst way for Justin Fields to come back out there and become a hero for the Steelers is by losing Russ. I will say that. I'd rather have a guy get benched than get hurt any day of the week. But we'll see. It's a bold prediction. We'll keep it on the calendar, on the sticky note for Monday.
Let's go over to Jose, who says, I just don't understand the confidence in Mike Tomlin. It's been almost a decade since the Steelers have had a playoff win. Same with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons to be all in on Mike Tomlin. There's reasons not to be all in on Mike Tomlin. I mean, he does win a lot of football games. The guys in the locker room absolutely love him. There are reasons to. I mean, Mike Tomlin is a very respected coach in the NFL. I also think the other side of this argument is sometimes change helps. Sometimes it doesn't. People by the end of Ben Roethlisberger were talking, well, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. Well, it's been time. And here we are. The Steelers are finding out very quickly that it's very difficult to find a good quarterback, just like it's very difficult to find a good head coach. So there are two sides to this coin, to this argument here. With Russell Wilson, I don't think it has anything to do with Russ being the Super Bowl quarterback that he once was, but more so a guy who has done it in this league long enough to say he knows how to do it, and he's done it before. I mean, it's the same argument with Flacco and everybody else. Like a guy who's been that good in the NFL knows how to do it, and Russ's strengths are different than Justin's. And Mike Tomlin wants to utilize Russell Wilson's strengths.
Let's jump over to ASAP Smalls, who says, do you think T wants Russ to close out the season? That way they get Justin Fields for just the 6th round pick. And that way, when they make a decision, it's no harm, no foul, whichever way they take. By the way, love the show, guys.
Appreciate you. I don't think it has anything to do with the draft pick. It's more so just this has been the plan the whole time. Mike Tomlin has not given up on the plan. He won't give up on the plan. So I look at this more as this is just what Mike Tomlin has wanted to do since May, and he's going to continue to do it because, well, he just, when he gets an idea in his head, that's what he's going to do. He's going to roll with that idea. And that being said, the Steelers spent all summer and all spring game planning how they are going to win playoff games and become a contender again. And they picked Russell Wilson to be the guy that they formulated this entire plan around to get them to where they want to go. So I understand sticking with that plan. It's probably way more detailed than just, okay, Russ is going to go out there now. And we just don't know that. So I think it's more that than it is anything to do with the draft picks.
Let's jump over to Demetrius, who says, how many games do they have to lose to ditch Russell Wilson?
It's got to be 2. I would say 2. You go into the bye week 0-2 without Russ and the offense doesn't look good. You open the door for some change. Mike Tomlin will not let this ship sink. That is certain. He wants Russell Wilson to be out there, and I think that his justification for that is warranted. I don't think he'd look at it and say, well, we tied our ship to Russ. Russ is an iceberg and we're going down. We got to make a change. And I think he would make that change. So I say if you go into the bye week 0-2, you consider it at least.
Let's go over to Biggie, who says, do you think Fields will be used regularly when within 10 yards of the end zone?
Yeah, I think within the red zone. I also think sometimes at like midfield. Like I just think Justin Fields has been good enough and has utilized his legs so well that you can't take him off the field. Not completely, and the Steelers don't have plans to. I mean, the reason Arthur Smith denied answering that question, the reason Mike Tomlin called Justin Fields' legs an X factor is because they fully get that Justin Fields is not going to be X'd from this offense. He is going to become a part of it, a different part of it, but certainly a part of it. So I would say regularly, but I would say regularly throughout the game, certainly.
That question goes hand in hand with James, who says, how many passes and rushes do you think Fields gets with his special package?
3 rushes a game, maybe a pass. I would say that's probably where we're looking at right now is 3 or 4 rushes and I would say 5 plays a game max is what they're really looking at. But I also think that as this develops, you'll find yourselves with Justin out there for a full series. And that's the thing is you don't want to use all your bullets right away. The Steelers will manipulate this in different directions each week, but they will try to give and take a little bit when it comes to Justin Fields. You will see much more of Justin in some games than you will others. In this one, I think they're going to keep it minimal so that they don't just throw it all out there and say, here it is, Justin Fields is the guy. He is part of this offense, and then every team has that film on him.
Let's go over to Brimstone, who says, love the show, guys. What are the chances that we have both Russ and Justin back in Pittsburgh next season?
I would say 0. And the only reason I say that is because if Russ comes back, why would Justin? Somebody is going to give Justin an opportunity. The Tennessee Titans, the New York Giants, the Las Vegas Raiders, I don't know. I'm trying to think of teams that are bad, but going to be good enough to get themselves out of the Jets, possibly those bottom picks. And Justin will get opportunities there. So if Russ comes back, Justin does not. If Russ doesn't come back, I think Justin might.
Let's go over to Vintage, who says, if Russ only barely gets the next 2 wins for the Steelers before the bye and plays average, does that open the door back up for Justin to step in and be the quarterback 1?
It depends on what that average looks like. If that average is the running game stinks, but Russ looks fine, I would say it does not open the door back up. If that average is the passing game still stinks and is still very, very mediocre, then I would say yes, because why not? You know, it's a give and take of, can Justin provide more to this offense than Russ? And if Najee's still running for 200 or is running for 150 yards a game and scoring touchdowns, and you know Russ is out there throwing for 75 yards and doing nothing flashy, why not have Justin out there? Why not? But if Russ is throwing for 300 yards and Najee Harris is running for 35 yards, you keep Russ out there because, well, he's doing exactly what you wanted him to do. The rest of the offense just isn't doing it around him.
Alrighty, let's go over to Jackson, who said, did you guys see Snoop Dogg pick the Steelers to win the Super Bowl no matter who the competition is? Snoop, high on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Snoop is high on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shout out Snoop
Something
Dogg.
else,
At all times. Snoop Doggy Dog. Yeah, I did not see that. Shout out Snoop Dogg. That doesn't surprise me. That guy is a diehard Steelers fan, and I love it. He kind of you kind of get the feel with Snoop. You're just like, yeah, dude, you would fit in well. You would fit in well as a Steelers, like just Steelers Nation. You're part of this. But no, I didn't see that. I don't think I would agree with him, but I hope he's right. I definitely hope he's right.
Let's go over to Jay Hauser, who says, do you think Pittsburgh is going to end up picking up one of the big name receivers before the deadline? I definitely feel they need a threat opposite of George Pickens.
I do think a trade gets made before week 8. This will be the game because they're not going to make a trade tomorrow. At least I hope not. And they're definitely not going to trade Mike Williams tomorrow, knowing that he's not even going to play on Sunday. That's just, you're wasting money. But I do think that this game, they look at it and say, okay, how does everybody look? If Van Jefferson comes out here and balls out, or if Calvin Austin comes out here and balls out, what's the point? Why did you ended that conversation? It was just the quarterback. If these guys look terrible and it's very evident that even Russ isn't going to make this group better, yeah, I think it becomes a very urgent thing that happens sooner rather than later. I believe the Steelers are next to get a wide receiver. Mike Williams is on that list. Elijah Moore is possibly on that list. I named some DeAndre Hopkins that they're saying is a 4th-round pick is on that list. So I would say there are a couple options. Yeah.
Let's go over to Brimstone again, who says, will the Steelers offensive line give Russell Wilson enough time to make those late reads you talked about earlier in the show?
I hope so. That's the other part of this is people will bring up the bad offensive line. And I agree that is an argument to be made, certainly. But there are also times where Justin said there is a difference between avoiding a sack and running. And while Justin is very good at both, a lot of times he runs. And that's what he should do. He could get 15 yards with his legs, run. But Russ might be the guy that avoids sacks and continues to find guys downfield. And that could be the difference between finding those late guys and taking off. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but it might give those late reads more of an opportunity.
We got a pair of Acrisure Stadium, it's Heinz Field, questions here from AJ and Steven. AJ wants to know, what time would you guys recommend to start tailgating this Sunday? And Steven wants to know, he's trying to find parking for the Giants game. Where should you look?
So we'll start with the parking. I would park downtown and walk over. It's way easier. It's a Monday, so that makes it more difficult. But if you get there early enough and you don't park on a street that you have to move your car during rush hour, which are all they're all the parallel streets. So you'll see one and then you'll realize. But if you could find a street where you don't have to move it during rush hour, get downtown, park your car, pay for parking until 6:00, and then just let it chill there and walk over to the stadium. So it's way less expensive than going over there. If not, get there early, park. The gold lot is always rocking, but most times you're going to have to pay to get in there. The problem with parking over there is you're going to have to deal with the traffic. So if you want to deal with the traffic, park over there. And you could park in any of them. They're like $40-$50, but I recommend parking downtown. The other one of this, what time would you get there to start tailgating? I mean, it's an 8:00 game. You're probably going to want to get in the game by like 7:30. I would say you start tailgating like, I don't know, 4. I will get down to the game at about 4:30, and it will already be rocking by the time I get down there. So take that as your landmark to say, depending how long can I last, that's when you get down there.
Let's go down to the fields is for the Pickens, who says, does Russ have to be the reason the Steelers win the next 2 weeks to continue to be the starter for the Steelers?
No. Not even a little bit, actually. He just has to, if the Steelers win these next 2 games and there are no questions, this is not they haven't had one this season. So it's tough to like come up with a comparison, but you can look at pretty much every game last year where they won a game and you're leaving it going, did they win that game? Like, should they have won that game? There are serious issues here. Can't believe they won that game. Unless it's that, I don't see Mike Tomlin making a change. I think he'd rather let Russ grow in this if they're winning than do anything else.
Steven does have a follow-up here really quickly. Very important follow-up. Is the gold lot prepay parking or first come, first serve?
Believe it's prepaid. I believe it's prepaid. I'm just guessing here, but I believe it's prepaid.
All right, let's go over to an interesting parlay here. What do you guys think about Breece Hall, anytime touchdown? Pickens, anytime touchdown. Calvin Austin, anytime touchdown. Russell Wilson over 189.5 and Pickens over 54.5.
I like it all except for Calvin, anytime touchdown scorer. But I get it. Like Calvin's the boost the odds a ton in this one. So I get where he caught. Like this is the, do I have to put $10 on to get a decent return, or do I have to put $2 on to get a decent return? I get it. That's what the Calvin move is here. I'd put Calvin in there. Nick, would you put Calvin in there? You feel like a more logical better than me.
When I look at Pickens and Calvin, I think that you're going to need both of those to be long touchdowns, because I think if the Steelers get close to the end zone, it's either Fields is coming in to eat up that touchdown, they're going to ground and pound with Najee, or they're going to go to their tight ends. So are you expecting 2 long touchdowns from the Steelers in this one? If you are, yeah, Pickens and Calvin are the realistic ones, but I would take one out and consider putting in maybe a Connor Hayward, who we talked about earlier. If you get close to the end zone, maybe it ends up going to Hayward in that 10 to 12 range. But I think both Pickens and Calvin, you're expecting long touchdowns, and I just don't see 2 of them happening in this game.
Maybe you take them out and you put Justin Fields anytime touchdown in there.
Yeah, but that's also saying that they're going to run those Justin Fields concepts, whereas it could also be Mike Tomlin saying, yeah, certainly we could do it, maybe, but he might end up not doing it.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna replace one with if you're gonna go logical, Connor Hayward's a good one, Pat Fryermuth's a good one, much less odds, definitely. But although Connor's probably through the roof odds, so that's probably a good one.
Yeah,
Justin Fields probably get you some crazy odds. I'm not gonna act like if he's not on there, I'm not doing something with him. You just have to. You have to. But I mean, I like it. I like the parlay.
Let's go over to Mint Studios, who says, can't shake the thought of a DK Metcalf trade. Have there been any developments, and can you give a realistic percentage that the Steelers end up landing him?
Yeah, no, I have not heard anything of DK Metcalf. I mean, we have speculated on this show more than once that I think he works well in Pittsburgh and could be an option, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I don't know if the Steelers have expressed any interest in DK Metcalf. That could change over the next week and a half. I'm sure that it will, but right now DK is a very quiet name. It could be more Seattle. I mean, Seattle loses this week. They're 3-4. You're looking pretty bad at that point. So maybe they start to ramp up trade negotiations and just sell house. DK could be an option there. But right now where we stand, no, I haven't heard a ton. The Steelers are due for a big wide receiver trade. I just don't know if it's going to be DK.
Let's go over to Sparkaside, who says, will we see Russ utilize Darnell and Pat a lot?
I do think so. Pat Fryermuth, definitely. Pat's open a lot, and Darnell will be utilized more for sure. I think this opens up all the tight ends, to be very honest with you. My thing with Darnell might be Michael Pruitt coming back, and he's going to take up more receiving reps than maybe Darnell is. But I do expect the tight ends as a whole to be utilized more from Russell Wilson. He's always had decent connections with his tight ends, and that will continue. I mean, you could go back to his Seattle days, and you don't remember any of those tight ends, but
Luke
you remember
Wilson,
that you
stop.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Is Luke Wilson was a stud, was he not? He was a stud. Yeah, but he wasn't. But Russell Wilson made him a stud. That's what he does. I'm just trying to prove a point.
We got 2 more here. I understand. I was kind of helping you with that one because I liked Luke Wilson,
Stud.
but Luke Wilson would have done anything anywhere else.
Dude, Seattle was the run of random white tight ends with long hair for like 3 years, and they were all good. So shout out Russell Wilson and that string of tight ends.
We got 2 more questions to get to here. Let's start with Chase Dreams, who says, anyway, we see CJ Henderson with the wide receiver matchups this week.
No, I don't think so. If I had to guess, the practice squad value or elevations, you get 2 of them per week, will be one of the outside linebackers, maybe 8 again. If not, the names are just, they're rough. The names are rough on the practice squad with the outside linebackers. But I would imagine it's an outside linebacker, ease the workload of Alex Highsmith as he comes back from a groin. And then the other one would probably be a wide receiver. I would guess Brandon Johnson. If Roman Wilson is questionable with the hamstring injury, chances are he's not going to go. So I would guess it's Brandon Johnson, and an outside linebacker is who you're calling up.
All right, let's go to Marlon, who says, do you think Roman Wilson does get a helmet this weekend?
No, he does not. He's questionable with the hamstring injury. I would imagine that means Roman is not going to play this weekend.
All righty, and let's close it out with this one from the Fields is for the Pickens. Appreciate you for joining as always. Says, what if the only scores this weekend are Justin Fields in goal line spots? That would be
awesome.
That would set up
awesome.
a crazy week next week going into that Monday Night Football game.
Okay, so let me ask, does it though? Like, does it in your eyes, if Justin Fields, say the whole game,
well, how many of it is
productive?
Yeah.
Like the offense looks productive. Let's say the offense looks productive, remotely productive, good enough. Definitely the passing game took a step forward. Things look fine, but Justin scores all the touchdowns in this game. Does that spark another quarterback competition, or does that just reinforce in Mike Tomlin's head, I made the right call and we got Justin Fields?
I think that, yeah, you're right. That goes straight to Tomlin's head of saying, listen, we have our goal line to the opposing team's 10-yard line quarterback, and that's Russ, and we have a 10-yard and in quarterback, and that's Justin. I think that's what he would look at that as.
Yep, exactly. So I agree. I think it might, depending on how the offense looks, it only makes Mike Tomlin's fire of Russell Wilson even better to say, man, dude, we did it. We got not 1, but 2, and they're both good. So I think it's an opportunity to actually double down on Russ.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will have the walkover Sunday, probably about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. The game's at 8:20. We usually put it out about an hour beforehand. 7 p.m. tomorrow or Sunday, roughly. So make sure to check that out on our YouTube page and anywhere you get your audio podcasts. Enjoy a beautiful weekend in the Berg. And if you are going to the game, be safe. With that said, we'll see you Monday. Peace.